Naranja Academy, the place where you begin with your dreams of becoming a Pokemon master. And yet it's hard to ignore the rampant influence of Team Star, a quite large portion of the student body that has separated themselves due to feeling ostracized and bullied. Due to recent events, the primary motivation behind this rogue faction of the student body has been uncovered. However, it does beg the question, why was this ever allowed to happen in the first place? The school should have the mental health and well-being of their students as their top priority. And so we have been tasked by Director Clavel to discover how to make the school a place where everyone can feel included. And to do this, we're going to visit the school and see just how accessible it is. Is Naranja Academy ADA compliant? Let's take a look and see. I'm here on behalf of Paldean Board of Education. First off, we'll be judging the school based on the Americans with Disabilities Act, Title II, because Paldea did not have a similar or at least has followed laws. Many countries, including Japan and Spain, thankfully have similar laws, but for the sake of this video, we'll be covering the resource that is most available to me, the reviewer. We're going to use this source primarily. I'll have it up now, but I'll have it in the description as well if you want to look over it as well, because it is very interesting and I've really enjoyed looking at it. This is what people do in real life. They'll have like a checklist and you'll go through and you'll just see how accessible your school is, right? So in 1992, which seems way too current to me, like this should have been a thing a long time ago. But in 1992, what it means is that any school that was built after 1992 needs to follow these regulations, any public school. And any school that was made before 1992 and maybe was not ADA compliant, they need to be working to make things as accessible as they can in those schools, right? So, of course, we have Naranja Academy, and I'm not sure if Naranja Academy is public or private. However, I do know that I have seen no other public schools on my journey, which means that this is either a public school or it means that Paldea has other problems, and that is that there's a large portion of children that are not receiving an education at all unless you're wealthy and able to afford schooling. If you are in a private school, it doesn't mean that you don't have like accessibility rules. It just means that it's based off of your state and local laws. And so they might be a little different than the ones that we're going through today. Well, first off, we're going to start with site arrival points. So first we're going to start with accessible routes. So as we can see, the school does have a very clear path to the entrance. Now, I've checked, there's only one primary entrance to the school. There is not an entrance over here, and there's not an entrance over on this side as well, which means that this is the only entrance. So all the students have to go through this way. Okay, so there is the paths are all very wide, which is great. So the path needs to be at least 36 inches. So that's 3 feet. That's easily 36 inches. And over here it's even bigger. So that's perfect. The main problem that I see, that I bet you guys are all screaming at me about, are these stairs, okay? So the rule with stairs is that you have to have a banister, right? So you have to have not just one banister, you have to have a banister on this side and a banister on this side. And from when I was researching like accessible stairs, there's also usually a banister if it's a wide staircase going up the middle. That way, if there's a lot of people that need to go up the stairs, somebody is able to have a banister that might need it. And so that could be if you have like visibility issues and you need to be able to hold onto a banister, or a myriad of other different kinds of like disabilities, the banisters are very helpful. And of course, this would also just be impossible to go up if you were like in a wheelchair or maybe had a different kind of walking device. This would take way too long to go up. So that's a problem in and of itself. But we're also here to come up with solutions. Naranja has those like that horrible staircase. And so that might make you think, but how could you get up there? Because there's just this giant cliff that the school is on. Well, Coscarafa has a solution to this problem. Look, they have like these water-powered elevators. So what we could do is Mesa Gosa could implement this type of strategy in order to help people that might need a more accessible point to go up the stairs. And if you look, like there's plenty of room. I mean, it does look kind of scary. They might need to make it so there's higher banisters or something, because that's terrifying. I wouldn't go in that. Anyways, but there's a lot of room. You could fit like a wheelchair. You could fit a few people in here. It's perfect. So what Paldea or Mesa Gosa could implement, the school itself, is we could have this type of system that is used for Naranja Academy, because I honestly don't think that like having a ramp would work. It would have to be a very, very long ramp going up the side of this like steep cliff, right? But if we had like that elevator system, that would make it instantly more accessible for people. You might say this counts as a banister, but it's actually more of a barrier, because the banister needs to be more like hand height. Do you see how if this is like my head height, I would have to reach way up there, right? And that's just not going to be easy for people. So you have to have like a banister that's about hand height. Sometimes they even have like different levels of the banister, which I think is pretty common. And you would just have that like on the interior. So you would have it like attached to this wall. And again, going down the middle, because that would help if it's a high traffic area, which I would say this is, right? There's a lot of people going up and down these stairs, especially when classes are about to start, that kind of thing. I mean, we don't really go to the classes. And then that banister needs to extend up here as well. Next thing that we need to look at is the drop-off and pickup zones. This is another solution that I had thought of before I had thought of Cascarrafa. When you're in the school, they give you accessibility pretty much to public transportation, which is the Squawkabilly taxis. And if you look, when you go on the Squawkabilly taxis, they fly you like right here. So this is essentially the drop-off pickup zone, which, you know, if you think about it, it's probably extremely busy during the day, but that's fine. Like, I don't think anyone wants to go up these stairs. But even if they made it a priority for like with people with accessibility needs, yeah, that could be helpful. But then you have to think, the Squawkabilly taxis are kind of, are they accessible themselves? This is what the Squawkabilly taxi looks like. So when you look at the loading screen, you can see that this guy, so like the pilot, he sits up here. Don't worry, it's not us. At first, when I saw these, I thought that this is where I would be sitting and he would be sitting in here. And I was like, I would literally cry. That would be the scariest thing in my life. And we're not going to question how the Squawkabillies can lift us at all. We're just going to go for the vehicle itself. So there's no ramp, for one thing, heading up to the carriage where someone would be sitting. And it looks like there is very little leg room, which could be a problem. Also, there is a storage compartment back here, but I'm not sure if it would be big enough to fit a wheelchair or some other walking implement, right? I mean, they look like a wheelchair can usually fold down. It would be a hassle. And then when you would land, you would just have to have someone get it out and then help you into your wheelchair, right? So that could be a bit of a hassle, but I could see it being possible. I'm not sure if the Squawkabilly taxis are the best accessible option, but they could be an option. Again, I'm thinking that what Mesa Gosa needs to do is just fork over the cash, or I guess the academy itself, and pay for elevators, because those stairs are impossible. Drop-off zones need to be, for one thing, they need to be level, so you got to be able to get out of like your Squawkabilly taxi and go right up to the entrance, that kind of thing, without tripping, without having to climb stairs, that kind of thing. And that is possible if those stairs aren't a problem. If you can go in just like your Squawkabilly taxi, right? Which is kind of like public transportation. So this does look like you could go here and you could move around safely. So that's great. There is no signage. So there are no signs that could help direct you to know like where to park, where to go, especially if you do have accessibility needs. There's nothing to say like this is where you can go and it'll be the most accessible to you. So that's a problem, and I think we're going to see that pretty commonly. If there are no signs out here, I doubt we will see signs inside. So there we go, no signage. So now we need to check the exterior routes. There are no parking areas, so there's no connections that we need to worry about from parking areas. This is a very wide space. There are like these lamps that are out here, but I would say that they're far enough to the side that they might not be a problem. There are benches, but they're off like in the grass area. So I would say that this is a very clear and unobstructed pathway. The next thing that we need to look at is the lighting. So the lighting, there are plenty of lamps. I've come here at nighttime and it's very bright. And just know, it looks as bright as day up here. This place is like a beacon. Like the school is just this beacon of light, and these lights somehow are able to light up the entire path. Even though it does not look like they'd be able to, they do, believe me. The next thing that we need to look at is the entrance. There's only one, so that makes this easy. We need to look to see if it's accessible, which it is. There needs to be at least one accessible entrance. This is right after this big path. This is right where you get dropped off, right up the staircase, so it's very accessible. Well, not the staircase, but you know, from the path. So the door width has to be at least 32 inches. That's definitely 32 inches. It's giant. And it needs to be able to open 90 degrees. We're just going to assume it does. Okay, because that way somebody with a wheelchair would be able to get through with no problem. Or if they had a different kind of mobility aid or device. So the threshold has to not exceed a ½ inch in height. Now this is a problem. At first I didn't think it was, but if you look, I would say that's definitely more than a ½ inch, right? Look at that. There's definitely a bump there. That could definitely be a reason, like somebody like with a mobility aid, they might not be able to get over that as easily. What we need is just a little bit of like a slope, a little bit of a rounded curve to help us be able to get up that. So the next thing is the door hardware. There are no handles on this door. No handles at all. So what I'm guessing is it's kind of like an epic pushing door. It's kind of like when you burst into a dungeon in Dark Souls and you have to push open this door with all your might, okay? And when I say that, I mean all your might, and that is a problem because the opening force must not exceed 5 pounds. I would say that this would be more than 5 pounds. Maybe it has godlike hinges that makes it so it just opens super easily. But this looks like a sturdy and a heavy door. So I would say that might be a problem. I don't believe the doors are automatic. I don't see any apparatus that would help the doors open on their own. And yet we do go up to it and they do open, it seems. Or they're just saving our character the embarrassment of showing her being unable to open the door by herself because they are so heavy. So now we're going to look at interior routes. So we go into the school and it's very wide open, so this is nice. So it would be really easy to move around in this space. So we're just going to kind of look at like the route themselves. So in order to get anywhere in the school, you're going to have to go through here. Oh my goodness, this is unacceptable. Look at this. There's no way that's 32 inches, this tiny little space. So that's going to be a problem automatically. So the pathways, they were great. They were unobstructed. The width was great. The doors, not so great. I would count this as like a door because you have to go through here to get to the door. The door itself, once you get past this horrible barricade, looks as if it does have a handle that would be easy to operate. You don't have to twist your wrist. But the problem with it is that door does look heavy, and so you might have to grasp that handle pretty hard, which might not be as easily done for everybody. And so I would say that door does look like you might have to exert more than 5 pounds of strength to open it. And so that could be a problem. And I could be wrong. We can't test the door for that. I would say that maybe there's an elevator behind this door, right? I think that this is not an elevator itself, or at least any kind of elevator I've seen. But I think there might be like an elevator and maybe some staircases beyond this door leading to other parts of the school. So I might give them the benefit of the doubt and say there's an elevator, because the school was like 4 or 5 stories, maybe more than that. They must have an elevator, right? Or we're all just super fit. But hopefully they have an elevator because that is much more accessible. I mean, maybe it doesn't matter though, because I don't know if anyone could get through here if they had a walking device that made them that much space hard, right? Okay, so we did the doors and doorways, we did elevators and ramps, stairs again. This is a problem. So with stairs, what we need to look at also that we didn't look at before. So of course there's the railing, but also they have to be able to have like treads. That way you can make sure that they're non-slip. These actually look like they'd be pretty slippery. Let's take a closer look. Well, maybe not. They're kind of like, they kind of have a texture on them, like a kind of like a stonish texture. I was afraid that maybe that it's more like marble, which is very slick, you know? So it might be better if they had like treads on them to make it for sure that someone would not be able to slip. The handrails also on the stair, they have to extend all the way along. I think all the way along here is the thing. Like not just up the stairs, they have to go up along this like barrier kind of thing. Anyways, and then those railings have to be a good height for people to be able to hold on to them easily. The headroom, that looks pretty good. I would say that there's not really people taller than that. I could be wrong. But yeah, so there's plenty of headroom. Ooh, actually right here, this would be bad, right? They might have to have something that tells, I don't know. I would say that that's not good, because once if you have low visibility and you're just walking and you smack your head up there, that would be very painful. So I was wrong. It looks like there are problems with headroom up here. They need to have like maybe some kind of like barrier that goes along here. That way you kind of stop before you can hit your head, if they want to have that staircase there. How cute. Look, they're up on the ladder. So cute. The floor surfaces, I would say, are pretty good and slip resistant. Up here, maybe not. That looks pretty glossy, like it could be slippery. But there's some texture on there, so maybe it's not bad. It's hard to tell when I'm not actually there, you know. Again, no signage, no alarms. So yeah, that's going to be a problem throughout here. There's good lighting though. I mean, look at this place. It's lit up great. It's like I guess it is daytime, but look, it's awesome. They have like this light that I don't feel like would actually make a difference, but it does apparently. Okay, so now the next thing that we're going to be looking at is the library. So the library is very important at a school because this is where you're going to be able to go and get your study materials and do things like that. And so we want to make sure that it's accessible to everyone because everyone should be allowed to get an education. And so the library is a very important area. Okay, so first we're going to look at like the entrances and routes. And we've already kind of looked at the library is kind of connected to the main hall. So we've already reviewed those and we've reviewed these monstrosities over here. So the next thing that we're going to look at is the aisles and pathways. So the aisles and pathways, I would say, they all seem to be 36 inches, so 3 feet, except for right here. There's this problem right here, this plant. This might be a little less than 3 feet, I would say. So in order to be safe, I would say just move the plant somewhere else, just because that's obstructing the hallway a little bit. Something else that I saw when I was exploring the library was something quite horrifying that I must show you all, okay? And that is this ladder over here. Look at it. For one thing, you would not be able to squeeze to get up here, and if you did, if you fell, you would certainly fall to your death. So that's not very safe for anyone. First, we're going to talk about seating and study areas, actually. So if you look, they have these desks in the library, and these are the same desks on the bottom floor as well. So you want to check to see if there is enough knee clearance and toe clearance. So if you're sitting in a wheelchair or something, so you might be a little higher up in these chairs that are a little lower. Oh, I never realized they have like little cushions for if you're shorter, like those students that are a little shorter. That's funny. So this is actually a good thing to see though, because that means that they do have a way to adjust height a little bit, which is something important. However, you can adjust it to be lower. Just you can add a cushion to be higher. But that is something important about a study area is hopefully there'll be an adjustable like seat or like the desk itself. But I would say there is enough knee clearance. Toe clearance, that looks pretty deep. So that might be okay for a desk that's accessible. They also have these chairs as well. So if you come over here, you'll see like these like soft chairs. So this could be a good place to socialize with your friends. An important part about accessibility is not just education, but it's also like socializing. You got to make sure that everyone's able to make friends, that everybody can feel like a part of the student body. And so over here, there might be space for someone with a wheelchair that they could sit with their friends and talk and enjoy their time at the school. Now this is the part that we're really struggling with, and that is the shelving. Look at these horrible bookshelves. Nobody can get books. Like, look how high that is. So usually the rule for shelving is that they need to be like within reach, and that means including in reach for somebody that might be a little lower to the ground. So like if you're in a wheelchair, you'll be sitting a little lower, or you might be able to only use like one hand because maybe you have to like maybe you have a different kind of walking device or something like that. And so 48 inches is about how high it needs to be, right? That is definitely more than 48 inches. You're going to need a very tall ladder to get to some of these shelves. And so the thing is, though, it doesn't have to be 48 inches if you've trained your library staff to be able to help students that might need help with that type of thing. And as you can see, there are library staff members here, right? And so we'll say that, look, they have like ladders over there, so it looks as if, and that's like an area that's only accessible by the library staff. So I would say that yes, it is accessible, as in they have like some staff members there that will be able to help you if you need help. The next thing that we're going to talk about is computer stations. And conveniently, we can see that this student is asking about the computer. So these are computers. They're not just maps. Because at first I was like, maybe they're just maps, like electronic, but they're just maps. But it seems as if they can be used as like computers. However, I would say they're not like studying computers. Like they're not like a computer station per se. I would say it's more of like to look up the map of the school, maybe to look up where a book is in this monstrous library. But we do need to worry about, and again, this is me not being, I'm here representing the education board, not like the American Disabilities Association or whatever title that goes by, right? What we need to look at with this is to see if this computer has like accessibility tools, as in like magnifiers or things like that can help someone, like maybe it can like read it out loud in case somebody has visibility, like an invisibility impairment or something like that. And it looks like from here, I can't tell, but if you look at the screen, there are like these like white square buttons in the bottom right. Maybe that's something, but I don't think we have enough data to really say that this computer is accessible, that we know for sure, but it also could be. It's not really made to be like a long-term desk, but maybe it would be a little inconvenient. And we want to make things as convenient and allow people to be as independent as possible. Okay, so the next thing that we need to look at is the circulation desk. Now, the circulation desk can be no higher than 36 inches, so that's 3 feet. I don't know how tall my character is. My character is a child, right? Let's see if there's an adult nearby. Okay, so here's an adult. We'll say she's like an average height, which is 5'4", 5'3" for a woman, I think. And I would say I'm probably about 4 foot something, it looks like. Maybe she's super tall though, who knows. But look, I am shorter than this lady as well, so I would say I'm definitely not at my full height yet, right? So this desk goes up to my chest. So I would say it's probably higher than 3 feet, right? And so what we need to have in this situation is we need to get a new desk, and it needs to have like a portion that goes down a little bit. That way if someone comes over and they might be like in a wheelchair, so they might be a little lower to the ground, that they'll be able to talk to the person on the other side of the desk without any problems, that kind of thing. And so that's something that we might need to get for the school as well. We have a long list of things that this school needs to make it compliant, guys. Okay, and again, no signage. We're just used to there being no signage. We don't know if there's restrooms. They're probably on the other side of these mysterious doors, but there's no signage telling us that anyways. Again, the emergency exits are not marked at all, so we don't have to, well, so they should be marked, and they should also have like audible cues, that kind of thing, if something happens. So again, that's a problem, but that's also just a safety problem for everyone at this point, right? Okay, so the next thing that we're going to look at is the laboratory. So there is a biology lab. At first I was like, we can just skip this part, but there's a biology lab, so we're going to need to look at this area as well. So first we need to look at the entrance. It looks like it is a pretty wide entrance. It needs to be at least 32 inches. So that's less than 3 feet. So that looks right. So the entrance is fine. I would say we can't really look at the door, so we can't see if the door is great or if the threshold's great. So we'll just assume it is. I mean, everything else has been going so well. The workstations. So we need to make sure that the workstations have like the toe and knee clearance as we did in the library. I'm a little worried about this one. These look very short to me. And look, these stools are very short. And so it would work for most people, but ones if you were in a wheelchair, so you were up higher off the ground. And so that just doesn't work out. Like your knees would probably not be able to fit under there. What we could do to fix that is that we could get tables where you can adjust like the table height, or we could get tables that are just higher off the ground, honestly. The next thing that we need to look at is toe clearance, which I think that there is enough toe clearance. They look pretty deep. And we need to make sure that all of like the controls are reachable. So they have like those like switches on the tables. Those look great. I'm a little worried about these sinks. As you can see, there's no like space under the sink. So like if you were again in like a wheelchair, there would be no place for your knees to go. So it would be a little harder to reach like the faucets and things like that. You'd have to reach way over, right? Because you'd be kind of back here. Your knees would be in front of you. And then these faucets are a little farther back. Well, they actually are a little more forward, so maybe that isn't as bad. But again, I would say there needs to be some space. Again, also, we have to remember accessibility is not just about the student body. It's also about like the faculty and people visiting. And so if our teacher had like accessibility needs, he also would not be able to use his sink as well. And there's just not enough clearance over here. Can you imagine getting in a wheelchair? Well, I can't even get up this thing. That's another problem. Getting in a wheelchair and having to fit over here, that would be very hard. Coming here, turning around, leaving. Also, if you look at this, there's this little raised portion. We definitely need to have some sort of like slope in order to get up there. I had a hard time getting up there just as my character, you know? And let's see, what else? So over here, we need to be able to reach everything. There's stuff up high, so you would definitely need the help of a teacher or a class member to get the things up high. So hopefully we don't need those things. Maybe they're just up there as like storage, but we don't need them. The walkways all look pretty clear. The only problem that I had was up here, and then of course the slope. But everywhere else looks pretty good. So I think that we're good on walkways. Safety equipment. Okay, so we need to look for like fire extinguishers, make sure they're accessible. The eye wash stations. We actually just don't have any of those, but I think that we can see that Naranja Academy does not really believe in safety equipment. Maybe they just hope that your Pokemon team is able to help you out. Like send out your Squirtle to wash out your eyes from all the dangerous chemicals or something, or to put out the fire that is burning down the school. So we'll just kind of go past that then. The next thing that we look at is floor surface. Now this would be really important in the laboratory because there might be like spills and things like that. So you got to make sure that it's not too slick. I would say the flooring, it's hard to tell because I'm not there in real life, you know. I mean, I definitely am. This is me, my character, doing this. I would say that it looks pretty good. It looks like there's some texture on there. Again, we're just going to give them the benefit of the doubt. And we're going to check back later, though, to make sure the students are safe. The lighting looks great. I can see everything clearly. No emergency exits. Perfect. Now we're going to move on. Welcome to the cafeteria. So this is the next room. Now this is very important. I kind of discussed this earlier, but something that I found really interesting when I was researching for this is that, again, like, it's very important to not only have everything be accessible for education, but also for socialization. Like, we want to make sure that everybody at the school feels a part of the school, because they are a part of the school. And that means creating healthy relationships with other students and not having to feel ostracized due to any sort of accessibility issues they might have. And so the cafeteria is very important so that people can foster those relationships. So the first thing that we're going to look at is the entrances. So again, this entrance, it looks fine. I can't get too close to it or it'll suck me into it like a void, like a vacuum of some sort. This entrance, not good. Look, I can barely fit here. It's maybe 2 feet at the most, and it needs to be at least 32 inches. So that might be really hard for someone to get through if they're using some kind of walking implement. And so they would not be able to get into this area at all. So that's not good. This is also a problem, as you can see that for the aisle and path for the aisle, there's this sign there, and that would be really easy to trip on, maybe if you had like a visual impairment or something, or just to get like past if you needed a walking implement. So this sign needs to be moved. It needs to be, maybe get like a smaller sign and just put it up on the counter or something like that, or just post it on the wall, that kind of thing. That could fix that problem. The tables look good, as in like the knee clearance. They look pretty high up there. If you look at my knees compared to the table, they're pretty. It's pretty high up, and the end has like that part that goes down, but like the side doesn't have like that part that goes down, and so that means there's even more room over on that side. And then of course the toe clearance is pretty. They're pretty wide tables, so that should be great. Also, like if you had a wheelchair, you could just move one of these chairs out pretty easily, and then you could just put your wheelchair in there, and that would make it so that you could sit with your friends, and and that's great. And the chairs have enough room around them that I feel like that would be pretty easy. The serving lines and counters. So what we want to make sure is that, for one thing, they are not too high. So they need to be no higher than 36 inches, which is 3 feet. And I would say that is less than 3 feet. Like, that just kind of goes up to my waist, right? And I'm pretty short, my character, it seems. Look at this guy. He's giant compared to me. Anyways, and so I feel as if even if I was like in a wheelchair or something, I could easily reach everything, and that it's not too high. Also, the serving counter is also looking like it's the right height, so that should be fine. The only problem I have is you also need to be able to reach like the utensils and things. So these are all fine if they don't have utensils, but I'm sure that they do, maybe during the day. It looks like I'm here at nighttime. But these like cylinders, they look like, even though the counter is like less than 36 inches, these are pretty high up there. And so like, let's imagine like you're sitting down, right? And then you would have to reach up to grab like the utensil, but then you have to reach down also to get like the food that's inside, especially if maybe it's like you're like at the bottom of the container trying to get food out. That would be pretty hard, I feel like. So I feel like what we could do is we could get different containers to serve food in, maybe get more of these that are kind of like in the counter, because those are pretty easy for someone, I feel like. Or just kind of, I don't know, get like a shorter container, because these look like they'd be way hard to get food out of. The next thing we're going to look at is the floor surfaces. They look pretty like non-slip, that kind of thing. There's no signs again, absolutely no signs. We have the same painting of flowers. We could have put maybe a few signs up there. Lighting looks great. Okay, so that is it for the cafeteria. This is the closest thing we have to a gymnasium. It's more of like a field, but according to the description, it is used for classes, which means it is an important place for us to look at. So first off is we have to check for accessible entrances and routes. So as you can see, it's these horrible entrances again that I don't think that anyone with like a walking implement could get through, including a wheelchair. They're too narrow, right? So and there doesn't look to be like an option to, maybe you could open this part up maybe, but there's not like an option to help someone that might need more space. So that's a problem. The door itself, again, we've looked at these doors, and they also might be a problem. They might be too big and heavy. So the next thing, the biggest problem I see though is this ground, right? So I did some research, and apparently it's very hard to go through grass with a wheelchair. And there are like different things you can put on your wheelchair, or different kinds of wheelchairs that make it a little easier so that you can go through grass better. But the whole reason of having an accessible like school is so that people can be independent without having to buy all those extra things for their wheelchair. Like they should be able to go to school and be able to do like everything that anyone can do. And so what we should have is some kind of path, right? But we shouldn't just walk right out on the grass. Seating, this is more for a gymnasium. There are a few benches and things like that, but I don't think that's something that we really need to worry about. This is more of like an exercise area, not really for like an auditorium type deal. However, at the beginning of the game, the director Clawville does come out here, and we are having like an assembly out here, and everyone's just kind of standing. But because of that, I would say maybe it's fine, like if everyone's standing, but maybe we would need, but there are some benches, because there might be some people that need to sit down. So maybe we could have some more seating out. That would be good, especially if we're going to have assemblies out here. If they're longer than that, then maybe we need some seating. Also, again, accessibility is not just for students, it's also for teachers and visitors and people like that. So we should probably have a ramp that's a little more gradual that goes up to this stage. This is probably too steep. We couldn't just make this a ramp. That way, whoever is coming up here to talk to the student body, again, it's perfectly accessible for them. Equipment accessibility. So this is talking about like gym equipment. There are like some, I can't ride, and how horrible. I actually have to walk. So there is some equipment over here. At first I thought it was just for Pokemon, but I think it is for people. There's like a ladder. That seems a very people thing. This isn't really gym equipment. I think it's more playground equipment, right? So maybe that's something that we don't really have to worry about. But coming over here, I did see this pond. They need to have like a banister around this for sure. Once if you had a visibility issue and you were walking along, you would trip over this tiny little barrier and you would fall right into this pond, right? And so this is definitely an issue. It looks beautiful, but it's also putting some people, I would say more than some people, in danger, right? So especially because there's Pokemon in there. I mean, they're Magikarp, but once if they attack you, who knows if you fall into their pond. So this is definitely an issue, and we need to have something here to make it so people are safe. It looks as if the school has some plants, and I would say it would make sense that this is like a horticulture class like assignment, right? And so there's some plants that it looks as if students must be growing because it's up in the schoolyard. And because of that, if you look at they have like raised beds, I would say if someone takes a horticulture class that has accessibility needs, they definitely need to be able to get to the plants. So you need to have some kind of ramp or something like that they can get into like the plant beds, or they're not going to be able to pass their assignment, you know? And so that would be helpful. There is like some kind of sign over here. Let's take a look. It is a sign that's pointing to the door. Maybe that's an emergency exit sign. And look, they have like this little red box. Is that kind of like a medical box or something? Wow, look out this is where it's at. People might be safer out here. This is where it seems like we do our assemblies and things like that. So we need some kind of like program accessibility, or like if people, maybe if they have like audio, like hearing impairments, that kind of thing. So we need to have like an interpreter for like a little assembly that Clawell had or whatever. That way people can understand what's being said. Or we need to have like some kind of like braille materials or things like that. That way if there's like a program or something that's being done, that people would be able to read it. We're going to go to our room. So we actually have a room in this school, and that is something that we need to look at, because that is in the ADA checklist, is that you need to be able to have like a dormitory that is accessible. Obviously, this is where you're going to be living, right? This should be the most accessible room of them all. Okay, so so there must be an accessible route to the dormitories. And again, we've discussed that many times. It's a mystery route. We don't know how we get here, but here we are. And it looks like we do have a good door size. It's probably at least 32 inches. And the handle looks very easy. Like the door doesn't look too heavy this time. And it's an easy handle. It's just like a grasp, and it doesn't look like you have to grasp it that hard, because that's also a problem, right? And so you could open it. There's no door to our bathroom, or door handle. There is a door to our bathroom. We can't go in it though, so I'm not going to be able to check there. But there's no handle, so I'm guessing it's just a push door, right? So that should be plenty easy. So we have to make sure there's a lot of turning space, and the room does look like there's a lot of turning space. So the only problem I'm really seeing is maybe this rug is a problem. I'm not sure if that's a problem. If you know, put it in the comments, but I would think that might be a problem to have like a rug in your room. Because once if like, again, like low visibility, maybe you would trip on it, or maybe it's hard to get like your wheelchair over a certain kind of rug, because this looks like a pretty soft rug, like a plush one. So that might be a problem. But like the area itself seems like you can turn pretty easily. There is this random, it's like the bar stool. But it is like kind of far out there. So that might be something that we would need to move, because that could get in the way of you being able to move around here easily. The next thing that we have is our kitchen. Now for the kitchen, we have to make sure there's low countertops, which I would say these are pretty, well, actually they're pretty high. Look at that. That goes like up to my chest. It's like the library counter. Well, not over here. It doesn't look like it does over here. We're gonna say that it's okay. We're gonna say hopefully it's okay. Okay, so the appliances need to be accessible. That microwave is kind of far back. I would say maybe that one might be an issue, especially because the handle is closer to this side, right? But this is the side you would probably open it from. So you'd have to reach like to the corner of your counter, which if you're sitting down in like a wheelchair, that might be harder to do. So that might be a problem. It does look like there's like a stovetop, and that one looks fine. Let's see. The floor space needs to be cleared. And that's over here next to just the appliances, so that's fine. The flooring needs to be good, like that you won't slip, and I think that's except for this rug. I think that the flooring looks great. The next thing that we need to look at are like light switches to make sure that they're in a reachable space. I would say definitely the light switches. Is there like a thermostat? Let's take a look. What's this over here? Oh, it just looks like a paper. Okay, so it looks like we don't have a thermostat, but we're like in an area that seems like it's a pretty good climate, maybe. So maybe we don't need one. So the light switches are fine. Furniture, let's look at the furniture. It needs to be arranged in a way that it's easy to get to. I would say that looks great. We might need some kind of like railing on the bed or something that we can like move the height of the bed, or like the desks. The desk looks like it has really good toe clearance and knee clearance. the bed might be a problem, but maybe that's like I'm not sure. Maybe for dormitories, they would have like specific rooms that are made specifically for people with that need like accessibility aid, right? So maybe they would have like a bed that's especially for someone that would need like a bed like that they wouldn't just put it in everybody's room. But there's like one room in like every like 25, like the parking spots, that would need like a bed, right? Need to have, again, alarms that are both visual and audible, but we don't have any of those anywhere in the school. So we just have to rely on our Pokemon, I guess. What we're going to do next is we're just going to look at one of the classrooms that isn't a lab, right? So let's see, what room do we think would be the room with like the worst accessibility stuff? I would say definitely the art room. I've been in a few art rooms in my time, and there's just stuff everywhere. Oh yes, look at this giant statue. But you know, there's pretty good clearance. Okay, so we're just gonna use the things that we know. We know that the entrances are important, and that looks good from what we can see. The tables need to have good clearance. I think that these tables might be a little short. Well, they do go up to my waist. But so that might be fine. There's lots of good toe clearance. The aisles are pretty good. I would say that's at least 3 feet. We do have like all of like these art easels that are kind of coming out into the aisle, so that might need to be moved, maybe put like less of a stack of them, right? Let's see what else there is. This art easel and the stool in the middle, that someone could trip on that, I feel like, so we might need to maybe have like a more designated space for that that's not like in the front of the room. There's this giant muck that's just covering no one can get by that thing. Then we have like this like station where you can like clean off your paintbrushes and stuff. It's very low, so that's actually pretty good. If I remember right, when we were reading in the lab area, the sinks are supposed to be like a certain depth and they need to be not too high, and these are pretty low, so I would say that these are pretty good for cleaning off brushes and stuff. There's no like knee clearance, but they're so low that maybe it's fine, you know? But yeah, the art room's not that bad. Should we check out the nurse's office? Because that would be ironically funny if it was bad. Okay, and then this will be the last place we look at. Okay, this is a problem. There's like a bed in the middle of the floor. And then if rugs are a problem, the rug's a problem. This desk looks like it would not have enough knee clearance. But maybe that's just for the nurse to use, right? Maybe that's not for students. Definitely you would need to have a bed, at least one bed, I would say, that is made to be like adjustable height, or maybe to have like some kind of thing to help somebody get in if they were in a wheelchair, like a handle, or if they needed help with mobility. Yeah, so I would say the nurse's office, though, other than that, is pretty good. Which, I mean, those were bad things. But, you know, for the way that this school is going, I would say it's pretty standard. That is Naranja Academy, and we have seen that it is extremely not accessible. I would say we definitely need not just accessibility enhancements, but also just safety enhancements for the students, right? Because that was pretty intense. There's definitely a reason why people would struggle in this school. So I know that this is just good fun. This is a fantasy game, right? Where it's not real or whatever. But these are just my final thoughts as I was going through this video and I was learning about accessibility, and it was opening my eyes to some things that I hadn't really seen before. And the reason why I made this video is because I think it's important to, try to be a little more empathetic, to understand and the world around us and people around us. And educational institutions are, very important. People come to like the school so that they can learn. They come so that they can fulfill their dreams of becoming Pokemon masters just like you. And it should be an environment where everyone can feel safe. And if we think about it, like in the game, like the main point of this, one of the main points, there's a few stories, but one of like the main arcs of this game is a group of students that feel like they have to leave the school because they are being bullied, they're being ostracized, they're being treated differently. And because of that, they leave the school and kind of like make it so they can't continue their education because they don't want to be a part of the school anymore, right? Because they aren't being treated fairly. That's kind of like what we're doing with accessibility. We're helping people so that they feel like they're a part of the school body, that they have everything that they need to be successful, because we want people to be successful. We want people to have, to experience the joys that you can experience by making friends, by doing what you love to do. And as we make our schools more accessible and the world around us more accessible, that's going to make it so that people can, accomplish those great things that people want to accomplish and that help everybody. So thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I hope that the main thing that I'm taking from this is that me as a person, that I need to strive to be more empathetic. Even though I do not know what it's like to be in a world where accessibility is really a problem for me, I do know what it's like to be in a situation where I do not feel as if I am included, that kind of thing. And I think that we've all experienced that to some degree. And as we strive to make things more accessible for everybody, then we are fighting against that, and we are helping everybody feel included and loved, and that's very important. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe and do all those things if you did, and if you want to see more content like this. And thank you so much. Let's chill time next time. Bye.